Hello everyone, you're very welcome to this talk on the final year projects. This is just a simple outline to let you know what's involved in the project. My name is Damien Gordon and I'm the final year project coordinator. So what we're going to look at is just who's involved in the project, what are the timelines, what do you have to get done, and then what are the first things you should do. So first things first, who's who? There's the student, the supervisor, the second reader, the coordinator, and the monitors. So you guys know you are the student. It is your responsibility to develop a project. That is, you have to do two things of equal importance. One is to develop software, a software system substantial enough, and then the second is you have to document it. So you create a document that's about 80 to 100 pages long called a dissertation document, and that records how you designed the system, how you built it, how you tested it, and how you evaluated it. That might seem a lot, but all you need to do is one sentence at a time, one line at a time. There's a particular process we follow with each of these projects, and as long as you follow the process, it's going to be absolutely fine. There's no problem. There's plenty of people here to help you. I'm the coordinator, and if you have any issues, you email me. But you'll be meeting another lecturer on a weekly basis who's your supervisor, and they'll help you and take you through the process of doing the project. Their job really, though, is to advise you, project manage you, to make sure you're getting through the process. They've supervised lots and lots of projects in the past, so they know exactly where the pitfalls are. They'll know if you're going too slow and tell you to hurry up, and they'll know if you need to take a bit of time and reflect on things a little bit more. It's best not to ask them to debug code for you or something like that. That's not their job. But if you're having technical issues, they might refer you on, or you might ask to be referred on to another lecturer, or you may just have to email people or go online and figure out the problems for yourself. But we'll try and assist you as much as possible. If there's other issue, like if you need to get equipment or something like that, let me know as well as your supervisor. There's another lecturer who's assigned, who's the second reader, and their job is just to look at your project at Christmas time and at Easter time to see, particularly at Christmas, to see how you're getting on and give you advice and just be a different pair of eyes on the process. As the project coordinator, it's my job to assign those two roles. If there's a lecturer you have a preference as your supervisor, I'll do my best to allocate you to that person, but not all lecturers have time on their timetables for supervising projects, or at least they have a limited time because it depends on what other duties they have. So I manage that process, but if you let me know there's a lecturer you'd like to have as your supervisor who you would be meeting on a weekly basis, let me know and I'll do my best for you. So that's my job, to assign students and supervisors, to manage the timetable, to manage the demos, the submissions, all that stuff. And for each demo, there'll be a few other people involved who will be monitoring the process and making sure that the demonstrations stick to the timetable and all that. In terms of what you've got to get done and when, if we think about the semester as being from September to May, we'll say, towards the end of September, early October, you'll be required to produce what's called a proposal, which states what project you want to do, what it's going to be about, how you're going to test it, how you're going to evaluate it, even maybe what programming languages or databases or operating systems you might think about using. Between October and December, you'll be building it a little bit, but primarily you'll be working on the research in terms of background reading and design. So you'll be designing in UML and ERDs and all kinds of stuff up to Christmas. At December, you'll submit an interim report, a halfway through report that documents what you've done so far, and you'll have to give a presentation. After Christmas, and during Christmas, I'm afraid you'll probably have to work on your project, but after Christmas, you'll have more time to do the development and the testing and evaluation. And finally, around just before the Easter break, you'll be required to submit your final dissertation. After the Easter break, then you'll have to do a demonstration showing your software running and explaining exactly how you got on. There's a process that every student who's undertaken the final year degree has done. So trust in the process. It may seem daunting at the moment to think you'll have produced this big working bit of software. Maybe you don't feel like you're the best programmer in the world, but I would just decide now, I'm going to work hard on this and I'll produce a good result. Don't let it happen to you, is my advice. Take charge of it and say, right, this is something I want to do well in, so I'm going to put an effort into it. So, as I said, this is the timelines. You'll be doing background research and software design up to and after Christmas, and then building and testing and evaluating up to Easter. So, the key deliverables are the proposal in early October, the Christmas report and the demo just before the Christmas holidays, and just before Easter, another demo, the Easter presentation, and then your final document. Every year we do run an event where we invite employers in and students do presentations on their projects, and very often people get hired for jobs during that time. That's completely optional if you want to do it. It can be great in terms of getting a job if that's your interest. So, what are the first things you should do? Well, the first and most important thing is to decide on what you want to do your project about. What area do you want to do it in? Databases, image processing, artificial intelligence, computer networks. So, in terms of the subjects you've done so far, what ones have you liked? Maybe there's a project in that. Or what assignments did you find very interesting? Or what lectures seemed fun, and maybe email them and say, I'm trying to think of a project. Have you any particular project ideas? If you have been working, either work experience as part of TU Dublin or any other work you've done, working in a shop, working in a restaurant, or even in terms of life itself, is there a software problem out there that you can think of a program or an app that might help people? And let's look at what some students did last year as inspiration as well. So one student created an app to help people with Alzheimer's to remind them of who particular people are or when to take particular tablets. One student created an IDE, a development environment using AI techniques to help people develop apps. A couple of people did blockchain projects, one on purchasing tickets to uniquely identify the purchase, and the other was on uniquely identifying the particular drugs. So you could identify who manufactured it, what wholesalers went to, what particular pharmacist it went to, and then who purchased it, because it's all uniquely identified. Capturing and verifying digital footage to make sure it hasn't been tampered with. A computer networking project with multipath transport protocol. An image processing project to identify whether someone has a gun or a knife in their hand or not in video recordings, and particularly muddy videos like CCTV recordings. A crypto alert trading app. An anxiety to help people with depression and anxiety, and a website to support that. A classroom management system, so a teaching tool to help support lecturers in class. A dynamic and proactive auto-scaling of microservices tool. A dynamic encryption technique using neural nets. Image recognition of different breeds of dog. A mapping system that lays out price prediction for different areas. A recommender system for different property prices. A security authentication system. Sentiment analysis based on Twitter, so looking at for a particular hashtag, how people feel about it. Are they positively disposed to it or are they negatively disposed to it? A smart tool to help people build APIs. A tool to help weightlifters. And mobile application that's universally designed, that is, that it's accessible for a wide range of people. And the use of virtual reality in architecture. And it's worth noting that some of these projects would involve hardware as well as software. So you might either simulate the hardware or we might be able to get it. So if your project involves particular hardware, then just let me know and I'll see if we have the budget in the School of Computing to get it for you. It usually takes a while, like a month or two, or maybe we've ordered it for some other final year project already, so that could be available to you that way. It's best to avoid additional equipment if you can, but if your project is about that, we'll figure it out. So I put together a word cloud of the main areas people did projects in, and as you see, the big ones are in machine learning, AI, computer security, computer networks, software development, of course, blended learning, which is e-learning, virtual reality, databases, of course, sound and audio processing, detecting emotion in sound lyrics or in particular musical compositions, games, of course, computer games for sure, natural language processing, and graphics in general is another big one. Data mining and data warehousing, networks, yes, and formal methods even. So lots of areas that people did projects in last year. So how will you know if your project is any good? Well, simply just email me, so damien.x.gordon@tudublin.ie, and that email address will also be accompanying wherever this video is. And if you put in the subject as FYP 8, level 8 you guys are, project ideas, that'd be great as well. Thanks a million. And I'll have a look at it. You might send me one idea, you might send me 5, you could send me 10. You might say, are any of these good ideas? Normally the ideas themselves are good. It's just how complicated you want to make them. So they have to be complicated enough for a project, but not too hard. And really, the point of contacting me is I'll know how difficult the project needs to be, and I'll help you with that. To add complexity to a project that's too simple, and to reduce the complexity of a project that's too hard. So really, things you could think about for each project idea you have is, what area is it in? Is it databases, networking, AI? What particular problem do you want to tackle? Hop onto Google Scholar and search for a paper or two about that particular topic. Normally with Google Scholar you can select the date range, so I'd pick papers from 2002 to 2020 onwards, just the last 2 years, and just see what current papers are saying about the area, and just look at the first few papers and see what they're discussing as being problems in this particular area. Then that'll probably tell you how you might go about solving that problem. How will you implement the solution? What kind of technologies would you consider? And then how are you going to evaluate the outcome of it? So when a chef is cooking and they create a soup, when the chef tastes the soup, that's testing. When the chef gives it to the customer, that's evaluation. So we evaluate with respect to some external entity. It could be a person, so we might need some people. If we write an app to help people give a nice tour of Dublin, a GIS project, then we probably need to get some people to test it and see if they think it's a nice tour of Dublin. If it's a project where we're trying to improve the speed of our network connection, then there's probably existing benchmarks or metrics that we can use to compare our results to. But we always, when we evaluate, compare our outcome to something else. So the main project website is damientgordon.com/courses/projectsl8. And I'll have a link to this on the page that I'm going to put this video on, so you'll be able to get to that no problem. So thanks very much. I look forward to next year. I hope you have a nice summer thinking about project ideas. Thanks a million.